but the NHL and coming back and how close and when. And let's talk about roster sizes and let's talk about division realignment. Like, where do we start here? Where is the NHL at today?
Well, how real do you want the talk?
Let's be real. Let's be real.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because here's the deal. Like, I see everyone getting really excited.
Uh-oh.
And I want your enthusiasm. And honestly, I'm an optimistic guy. But the only
This is such a bad start.
My God. Small little piece of caution I would say is that nothing is done until it's done. And I only say that because there's so many challenges here, and some of them are within the control of the league and the Players Association. Some of them are not. And, look, the NBA had 10% of its players almost test positive upon coming to training camps that have just started in the last week or so. We're seeing the NFL. Yeah, it was just slightly less than 10%. The NFL is like playing games every day of the week, which, as someone with very little watch on TV, I don't mind. But I mean, it's doing that for the wrong reasons. It's because of the number of COVID tests and scheduling mishaps and starting wide receivers at quarterback. I mean, just look what's happening around the world. We've seen the Finnish League take a break. The Quebec Major Junior Hockey League's taking a break in December. And so I still think there's a world here where this doesn't happen and we just start on January 13th and there's 56 games and everything is perfect. So I don't want to be the rain on the parade, but it's not just even about a financial fight, although I still think that could be looming. It's not just about a quarantine set of issues, which I think are still complicated. It's not just about how are we really going to do 10-day training camps, no exhibition games, and launch into a season while a pandemic's happening. Well, they're going to further lockdowns in Pennsylvania. California is a mess. Obviously, the Sharks right now can't be at their rink. The Montreal Canadiens, as we're talking at this minute, are not allowed to even open their practice rink, and camp's supposed to open there in 3 weeks? There's just a lot of shit. And again, a lot of it is I'm not blaming it on the league, the owners, the players. This isn't the way it's been framed in the public is only a small part of what they're dealing with. And so everyone I talk to, I'll put it this way. There seems to be a general understanding they're probably starting later. I hope I'm wrong. I want to see as many games as possible. I want to get going soon, but I just got a feeling that this is going to slide from January 13th.
Slide like you accidentally slip shoveling your driveway, or slide like a toboggan?
I hope it's I live in a condo, so I haven't slipped shoveling my driveway in a while, but I would say I just think a week or two to start, and I hope it's not worse. Look, I'm trying to be optimistic too. I'm not going to hide my allegiance. I work for the national rights holder in Canada. I mean, my own personal job future is somewhat tied to this. I just love it. I mean, I think the listeners out there, I just love hockey. I'm not doing this for a job anyway. I just want something to do. But I don't think I just think that there's a lot of sledding here still. Steve, you shoveled just the end of your driveway and the snowplow's coming down the street, and you still got to do the rest. And let's just keep fingers crossed.
This is when the plow comes and you're finishing up and they put a bunch more snow right there at the end.
Yeah. And look, all the players are coming back. I actually spoke with Rasmus Sandin today. He's getting fired up to come back from Europe. I know Austin Matthews is thinking about coming back to Toronto, to focus on a couple of Leafs guys. And otherwise, I think there's about 20 players already here that have been skating at the practice rink, including guys who don't live here year round, like Freddie Anderson's come back. Zach Bogosian's here now. I mean, everyone is prepping like this is going to be the thing that's happening. And so, as I say, this isn't an issue of two sides that always fight and cause chaos, fighting and causing chaos, although there's an element of that. Mm-hmm. I just think we have to recognize that COVID and governments might have a say. And honestly, what it might just mean is maybe they start this season in bubbles again, just for a little while until it's safe to open in arenas.
When you're talking about some of the fun stuff like expanded roster sizes, what's that going to mean? Like for the average fan, I understand that it'll just be there's more players available. But for us, the people that are watching NHL stuff on YouTube and listening to it on Spotify, who are the hardcore, how does that fit into the cap? What are they working on with that?
So this will be interesting. And look, this has not been finalized yet. This is just still at the stage where the NHL has presented this to the players. And so there still could be some tweaks. But in general, what's being discussed is expanding roster sizes to 25 or 26 players. Now, with those, let's say you're carrying 26. You'd have to be cap compliant with your 26. as far as I understand it. Now, for teams like the Leafs,
so Arizona can carry 40 people.
The Leafs, the Canadiens, the Vancouver Canucks, these kind of teams that are going to be right up against the ceiling, the Tampa Bay Lightning, Vegas, those teams aren't going to be able to carry 26 even if you're allowed to. However, there's also an additional 4-person taxi squad where those guys are kind of outside your cap. They're essentially, I think, considered to be in the minors, even though they're with your team, and they're there for emergencies, right? They're there in case both your goalies, produce a COVID test and you're on the other side of the country, which could happen theoretically to one of the Canadian teams with the travel that's going to happen in this all-Canadian division. And so one of the questions that was put to me by a team, and it's not the Leafs, just to dispel anyone who's out there guessing, by a team that's going to have some cap issues this year is, so how does that work for waivers? So if I have to put
I was going to ask, yes.
They're like, if I have to put someone through waivers, well, think about that. Not just a goalie. Like, let's say you are Ottawa or Detroit or teams with a huge amount of cap space. Can they just grab my guy off waivers and stash him on their 26 and never really play him, but just to have that guy as an asset and just because they have the cap space to do so? And so I think some of the maneuverings of how this work will, again, the devil will be in the details about that. But, what's interesting is that team, there could be an advantage there for the teams that don't have as many players as much cap trouble as others, because they're going to be able to carry more players. I think they're going to be able to maneuver more. They might be able to steal guys off waivers. And, these teams that have spent closer to the ceiling, they're going to have to make do with less and just hope that they don't get a bunch of COVID tests or what have you.
I want to present you with a scenario, guys. This for what Chris is talking about. I was thinking about this earlier. So a lot of people have talked about the Aaron Dell signing and saying he's a pretty good third goalie for any NHL team to have, and it's surprising that he signed with the Leafs. Imagine they're in Vancouver in this all-Canadian division. Jack Campbell and Freddie Anderson test positive for COVID, and Aaron Dell gets claimed by the Calgary Flames because he's got to go through re-entry waivers.
There's no re-entry waivers.
No re-entry or taxi squad waivers. Like, are you able to just pull from the taxi squad whenever you need? Or is it, and that's, if they don't sort that out, that conceivably could happen.
Well, and what could happen just in general, the Leafs signed Aaron Dell to be their third goaltender, to be insurance. He would require waivers at the start of the year, let's say, if they had to get down under a certain amount. I haven't done the cap crunching, but I can guess that they probably don't intend to keep him on their opening day roster, as it's called, because they need every bit of space they can get. But, they also want to have him. And so I don't know how that's going to work. I mean, there's also a consideration, actually, you should mention, part of the rules that every team has got to carry 3 goaltenders all year long. I think just because you're trying not to have a Denver Broncos quarterback situation repeat itself in net. I mean, at worst, if you get a bunch of defensemen that go down, you can probably have forwards play defense. It's not ideal, but it's not a completely different position in the sense that, a forward can't really go and play net for you in an NHL game. Let's hope. I mean, we might see it this year. I don't know what's going to happen. Like, we thought David Ayres was a crazy story. Like, the odds of something crazier happening this year are possible.
Well, and we thought David Ayres was crazy, but David Ayres is a guy who plays goalie. He is a very good goalie. And I know for a fact that in his beer league, they were like, hey man, can you play out? Because he was too good for them. He's used to facing professional shots. What you're talking about is a situation like Connor Crisp.
Yes, you remember that. Erie.
Of course I remember that. So Erie Otters, they have one goalie. They're heading into a game because the goalie got hurt or sick or something like that. Ramis Sadikov, I think was the name of the goalie. He gets hurt in the first minute of the game. And the Erie Otters have a forward sitting there as a healthy scratch named Connor Crisp. And he's like, I guess I'll play. And he's wearing his Connor Crisp jersey. And you realize it's not a goalie jersey, so it's very tight. And they lost, I think it was 13-4. Against, I think it was Ryan Strome, Dougie Hamilton. The Ice Dogs were loaded.
That should have been what happened with the Leafs and David Ayres, by the way. That's what the score should have been.
It was not.
It was.
I actually wish we know how much in-game money went on bets that would have been lost.
Oh yeah.
There must have been a
ton.
God.
Yeah. It'd be nice if they ever made that stuff. I know they got their deals in Vegas, and I know they're pretty limited at this point, but those kinds of stats are interesting. I
have unnamed media friends that lost some serious dough that day, and so that's what gave me the idea. And I'm sure they're not alone. I mean, Think about it. You see, they pull a guy in like who normally sits in the upper deck, and like you're taking the Leafs over, you're taking Leafs plus 1.5, whatever. I mean,
who are the guys who had the angriest reactions? Let's go through. Oh, wait a sec. Okay, let's maybe not use that as the barometer. It wasn't me. I swear to God.
Chris,
Steve, why's your house for sale?
Listen, man. Now I got to move to Newcastle. Got to go even further east. This is bullshit. Anyway.
Chris, I promised you we wouldn't take up too much of your time. We already have one last question. When you're looking at the month of December and the month of January, where between now and the supposed start of the season are we getting this announcement? Like, how soon is this coming? If you were to just predict, we're not putting any money on it. When do you think this gets wrapped up and we know a specific date?
I'm hoping Friday. That's probably a little soon. Monday. I'll go with Monday.
Mm-hmm. That's also soon.
Yeah.
Look here, so they're having a board of governors meeting today, an owners meeting on Wednesday afternoon. That was originally scheduled for Thursday, and the thought then was that they could potentially during that meeting be voting on something. Now, I was told it was moved because they don't anticipate by Thursday there'll be something to vote on. But I think by early next week, I mean, look, if you're having players start January 3rd for training camp, I mean, let's just work backwards. What day is today? So it's the 9th.
Yep.
So Monday would be the 14th. I mean, we still got tons of guys in Europe. They got to come back. They got to serve quarantines. They have to be ready to skate. I mean, they need an answer, I would think, by Monday. So what'll be interesting, I guess, is how they announce this, because I don't know that they can say Monday, 100% we're starting January 13th. I think they can say, look, we want to have camps on these days, tentative January 13th start, depending what happens. But I think we're getting an announcement really soon here just because there's players that are just waiting to book a flight.
Yeah, no kidding.
All three of us are smiling.
If I could ask you one more quick question. I saw a lot of takes today about how the veteran players, by not conceding more money for this upcoming season, are just kicking the can down to the younger players in the future years. Do you think that's what's happening here? Is the NHLPA just kind of hurting the future of the league in terms of the money they can make as players?
Well, it's 100% what's happening, but I think we should recognize that's what unions do. And it's that doesn't just stop at like professional sports unions. Right. I mean, let's look at the history here. At one point in time, Colby Armstrong's a good example. My colleague at Sportsnet, I think he was drafted in 2002. You can fact check me there. Anyway, I know it was before the 2004 lockout, and he was drafted in the 20s in the first round. And I believe the signing bonus he got was somewhere like $1.2 or $1.4 million as a 20-something pick. And that was just straight money he got before he was ever an NHL player. 2004-05 lockout comes around, and what does the union do? They allow this creation of an entry-level system that basically limits what all first, second, and third-year players in the league forevermore can earn, because they didn't want to give up certain things that were affecting the current day unionship. So this is a normal thing. It's just in this case it's so extreme, that we can see what the problem is going to be. I mean, this entire CBA is written around the fact that normally it's a 50-50 split of revenues, that the players are going to draw more revenues than the owners in the beginning, and that they're going to have to pay that back. And so there's going to be a tab in year 4 or 5 or 6. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball for what revenues are going to do, but with 100%, by trying to insist to get as much of their contracts today, it's going to impact what players a few years down the road can earn. But I also think the players a few years down the road will do that with the next deal for the players after them. Like I do think
kick the can down the road.
Keep going.
But I have to be clear here that I'm not being critical of the players for doing that. I just think that's what unions do. Honestly, like even I used to work at a union place. It's not my current place of employment. And at one point they said, okay, everyone who starts now gets worse benefits. You guys still get the old benefits, but everyone that starts now gets these like lower tier benefits. I mean, it's just what happens, unfortunately. And so these guys that haven't even played a game yet, some guys we've never even heard of their name that are going to be NHL stars are probably going to be limited in what they can earn because of, look, it's because of the pandemic too. It's not just because of this one decision. It's
of course.
Actually, if you look at our country, I mean, not to turn political, but we're giving away a ton of money as the CERB benefit, which I'm all for. I mean, we have to support people whose lives are changed here. But we're like, think of the debt the Canadian government's accruing right now. That's screwing the next generation of Canadians more than it is. It's to help today's generation, but the next generation will pay for that. And so again,
you're saying it'll be 75 to 100 years before this debt's paid off.
Right. So we're selling our kids and our kids and our kids' kids' kids down the road with that decision. I don't blame them for making it. I don't really blame the players here for, look, it's hard to believe, but there are some NHLers who need this money. I mean, not everyone has a huge stack in the bank and a huge stack to come. And so I don't blame them for, they also feel like they negotiated to get 72% of their salaries this season. And so they're holding firm on that, but there will be repercussions.
Wow.
To answer your question, Colby Armstrong was drafted 21st in 2001.
Right. So back in the day when you were drafted in 2001, you could get $1 million plus signing bonus before you'd even played a game. Now the top pick overall gets a $92,000 signing bonus.
Wow.